Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast is your one-stop shop for fantasy football news and advice. Can't decide on who to draft on the first round? Going gaga on how to line up your team. Got you covered. Traditional league, dynasty league, PPR league, IDP league, even daily fantasy football league. Join us as we break down all the questions of fantasy football. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast.
Thank you for tuning to the Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast, where I will give you advice on how to set up your lineups and standard leagues, PPR leagues, and any type of league there is. And I'm your new host, Jeremiah Martinez. This is kind of like a relaunch of the show. We know this show's been on hiatus, I should say, for a while. But anyway, we got a lot to get into the cover, and week 2 was a terrible season for running backs and injuries, and I want to talk about one in particular to start off the show, and that is Adrian Peterson, the Minnesota Vikings running back, and he did not get off to a good start this season. And Adrian Peterson was regarded to be probably a late first round, maybe early second round, and fell late to third round in some drafts. I know he fell late to early in the third round in my draft, and another draft that I did went into the second round. And there's some guys out there that were value higher than him, like Ezekiel Elliott from the Dallas Cowboys, first rounder, and the Lamar Miller of the Houston Texans went earlier too, but he suffered a torn meniscus on Sunday Night Football against the Green Bay Packers, and he's not out indefinitely. AP still has a chance to come back. He hasn't been ruled out for this Sunday's game against the Carolina Panthers, but I don't see him coming back this Sunday. Maybe is it because he's getting up there in age? Is he still valuable to be a fantasy running back? Is he still an RB1? I'm not quite sure. But would I drop him? I would not drop him out of my lineup. You can't give me any reason to drop AP. You can't give me any reason to drop him. I still think he has a unbelievable track record as a fantasy running back. And if you really do need running back help, there is a lot of waiver pickups, particularly in the Minnesota backfield, that is. But before I talk about, the Minnesota backfield real quick, I want to get into AP's stats here. He got up to a really slow start this season. Really, really slow start. He against Tennessee Titans, a team I thought he was going to dominate, didn't really do that well. He had 19 attempts and only 31 yards. And then last Sunday against the Green Bay Packers, 12 attempts for 19 yards. Couldn't get anything done. He only has been averaged 1.6 yards a carry. He has not gotten anything done. And I don't know if he's considered a running back one anymore. I think his days as a top 5 running back are done, but I still see him as a valuable running back, in fantasy football altogether. Me personally, I wouldn't drop him. I wouldn't do that unless I don't know if there's any reason to drop him at all, actually. I do not see any reason to drop him at all. But let's talk about, the Minnesota Vikings backfield, Jerry McKinnon and Matt Asiata. they're going to be very popular waiver wire pickups this week. I know I got a claim on McKinnon. I know I have him. Alciado is also valuable as well. Remember when Adrian Peterson didn't play the entire year in 2014? He only played like 2 games because he was going through some stuff off the field, which I don't want to get into. This isn't that kind of show. But Jared McKinnon did get some playing time. He was a rookie that year, and Matt Alciado was the guy that got the start right away. There was a game in particular where Matt Alciado had 21 yards, but 3 touchdowns. And I think he had like 21 points because of that. And everyone went to go rush out and get him in. Matt Alciado was not the same guy after that. Jared McKinnon ended up being the guy to own in that backfield. And I think Jared McKinnon is still the guy to own right now in the Minnesota backfield, because I don't know how long Adrian Peterson is going to be out. I really think maybe they should wait to put Peterson in until late in the year. I think they are going to do that from a football standpoint, but from a fantasy football standpoint, I don't know if he's really. I don't know if he's a worthy. Maybe he's not an RB1. Adrian Peterson, that is, and I do like Jared McKinnon. He's a guy that he can catch out of backfield. He's really speedy, and there are reports after that Jared McKinnon and Matt Alciado are going to have a 65-35, split. So that means Jared McKinnon is going to get 65% of the snaps, and Matt Alciado is going to get 35% of the snaps. And Matt Alciado is, he's more of the goal line back. The Minnesota Vikings offensive coaching staff, they love his run blocking abilities, which is very valuable in real football. But in fantasy football, you don't get points for, for run blocking. You just don't. But I do see he is a valuable running back in goal line situations, which I think he's more valuable at. So that's why I think Matt Alciado is a valuable pickup. But he's more of a flex. That is, he's flex, maybe RB3. McKinnon, on the other hand, I see him more as an RB2, heading forward until Adrian Peterson comes back. Jerry McKinnon is probably going to get the start on Sunday if Adrian Peterson can't go, which I don't think Adrian Peterson is going to come back right away. But Jerry McKinnon should get the start, should, be involved in the passing game. And he should get some carries. And he has speed. Jerry McKinnon has speed. My only problem with, both of these, but the backfield in Minnesota is the offensive line. The offensive line, they look like they couldn't make any holes for Adrian Peterson. I don't know if Peterson's stats, I don't know if that was due to his age or the offensive line. Maybe both go hand in hand. But I'm really interested to see what a younger running back can do with this Minnesota offensive line because, Sam Bradford had played a better game. We saw Stefon Diggs, who was a fantasy stud this weekend. I will get to him later on the show. But this offense, this backfield in Minnesota, it's one that's been really intriguing over the years. Adrian Peterson has been the guy, who's been a top 5 fantasy running back for past couple years, but not in 2014 when he didn't play. But I think Adrian Peterson's top 5 running back fantasy days, I think they're pretty much done. I think he's not a top 5 fantasy running back anymore, and he's 32. He looked really old, in the past few games. And don't get me wrong, he's still a valuable fantasy running back, but he's not a top 5 running back anymore. He's not a top 5 fantasy running back. And I do think Adrian Peterson will come back this season and be very valuable, fantasy running back, down the stretch. He may not be an RB1, but he could be a RB2, because I think depending on how Jared McKinnon or Matt Asiata plays, I do think they're going to mix all of these guys in, and they have to, create a running game for Sam Bradford, who just got there for 2 weeks. And that's how I see the Minnesota Vikings backfield going forward. But, I'm going to take a break. First break, that is. And I'm going to get into some top performers of this week. And when we get back from our second break, I'll talk about guys who can possibly pick up this week. We'll be right back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast, and I'm going to get into some top performers of week 2. I'll go break down, game by game, each top performer from each game. And I want to start off with the Thursday Night Football game because, man, Matt Forte was a fantasy stud, scoring more than 20 points, 100 yards and 3 touchdowns. Man, I'm gonna be honest with you. I wasn't very high on Matt Forte, coming into this year because he is over 30 years old, and usually running backs in the NFL that are over 30 years old, they don't really age well. And I admit I was wrong about Matt Forte. He's probably one of the guys I wish I would have drafted. And I expect him, to be a top 5 fantasy running back moving forward. I really do. As long as he stays healthy, your fantasy team should be really good. And, because Matt Forte is highly involved in this New York Jets offense that features playmakers, at the wide receiver position. Even Ryan Fitzpatrick has emerged as a pretty reliable fantasy quarterback, which I'll talk about him later on in our fantasy waiver wire pickups for week 3. But getting back to Matt Forte here, man, he was just on fire. I'm not sure if that played part into the Buffalo Bills, defense, but I would start. He's a must start moving forward. Like, he could have showed me why he's still breaking the stereotypes of old running backs in the league. But yeah, Matt Forte has been a fantasy stud so far this year. And another game I want to get into is the Cincinnati Bengals and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Ben Roethlisberger, of course, has been one of the top performers of this game. Going for 259 yards and 3 touchdowns. So I feel like I don't need to go any further with Ben Roethlisberger here being a top fantasy, quarterback. And I want to get into the Baltimore Ravens and Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns are kind of they're going to be without Josh McCown for possibly for a couple of weeks, which kind of hurts. Well, not kind of. It really does hurt the value of the Cleveland Browns offensive skill players in fantasy moving forward. I expect them to be downgraded, but Isaiah Correll should be relied on heavily for the Cleveland Browns. And I do think, that kind of improves Correll's fantasy value. Remember, he had more than 130 yards rushing and a touchdown, even though majority of those yards came on a big, rushing play. Isaiah Correll is going to be relied on heavily, and I do think Duke Johnson finally might be used in the Browns offense. Duke Johnson has been he is regarded as a fantasy sleeper, to before the year, and he hasn't been used at all. He's been come out pretty much droppable at this point. I'm pretty sure a lot of teams, a lot of players that is in fantasy football have dropped him, and I do expect possibly Duke Johnson's role increasing a little bit more. But I think Correll is possibly the guy to own in the Cleveland Browns backfield. But anyways, I want to talk about another top performer from this game, Cleveland Browns and Baltimore Ravens, was Corey Coleman, a rookie. Yeah, Corey Coleman was someone I really liked heading into the season. I didn't know how he was going to be performed. I didn't see him as a must start right away, but I saw him more as a guy you can stash, moving forward. But man, he played really well. He had over 100 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns. I'm not sure how he's going to perform with Cody Kessler at the helm. But I would say if Josh McCown was going to be the starter week 3, I would say, I would go ahead and start Corey Coleman. But since Cody Kessler is the starter this week, I would just sit Corey Coleman and see how he performs. Maybe if he does perform with Cody Kessler at quarterback, I think you might have to start, integrating, Corey Coleman as a, not a must start, but someone you can probably insert him in your lineups, moving forward. Possibly until Josh Gordon comes back. Because Josh Gordon, I still think he's the top receiver for the Browns, even though he's been away from football. Well, not been away from football, but hasn't played in a real regular season NFL game in 2 years. That does worry me a little bit, but I still think Josh Gordon will be the top fantasy performer in the Cleveland Browns, wide receiver position, that is. So those are 2 guys that I really liked for the Browns moving forward. Correll, he's still an RB2. I don't see him as an RB1. But he should be utilized more heavily now with Cody Kessler at the helm. And Corey Coleman's value could increase depending on his performance this Sunday. Yes, this Sunday. And another player I want to get into is Will Fuller. Will Fuller for the Houston Texans. He's been really good so far this season. But against the Kansas City Chiefs, he had over 100 yards receiving again. Yeah, again, and it happened. He's had 2 straight games with over 100 yards receiving, and he is playing this Thursday. And I would say go ahead and start him against the New England Patriots, even though they are a tough defense. I would go ahead and start him because you got to continue to ride his hot streak. Will Fuller is on fire right now. He is on fire, and he is going to get a lot of targets because, DeAndre Hopkins, I think DeAndre Hopkins is a top 5 receiver in this league, but he's going to get double teamed heavily because, he is the number 1 guy in Houston. But the chemistry that Brock Osweiler has showed with Will Fuller has been phenomenal. These guys were, they created this chemistry around the summer and during training camp, and it has really showed. And this Houston offense has surprisingly been pretty explosive, I might add. It's been pretty surprisingly explosive. You still got Lamar Miller there as the workhorse who seems to be really happy with his role. Clearly, Lamar Miller is a RB1. And I really like what I'm seeing from Will Fuller so far. I would start him against the New England Patriots because you gotta ride the hot streak, man. You got to ride the hot streak. And another top fantasy performer I want to get into. I was talking about the Minnesota Vikings in that previous segment. I was talking about the Vikings backfield with Adrian Peterson, Jared McKinnon, and Matt Asiata. The top performer from that game overall, from Sunday Night Football, Stefon Diggs. Wow, Stefon Diggs put on quite a show. And before I tell you about his performance and if he's a must-start moving forward, I cannot believe that someone in one of my leagues dropped him before the season. I was like, really? You dropped Stefon Diggs? Really? Maybe that might have been because, Sean Hill was a quarterback. Sam Bradford, you didn't know what we can get with him. But I don't know what to say to that guy because, Sam Bradford has a history of, targeting the slot receiver. And that's what Stefon Diggs. He's the number one guy, but he's also really good in the slot. I still can't believe that happened in my league. I put a claim on him. I didn't get him. But the fact that he was dropped in a fantasy football league, a money league, I might add, I still can't believe. But anyways, getting back to Stefon Diggs' performance on Sunday, man, he put on quite a show. Catching 9 receptions for 182 yards and 1 touchdown. That was amazing, and I think he is the first Vikings receiver to have 2 straight 100-yard receiving games since Chris Carter in '97. So, is he a must-start moving forward? I think I would insert him there as your probably your second or third best receiver on the team. I don't know if he is the number one guy. Don't get me wrong. He may not be a WR1, but he definitely is a WR3. He definitely has the potential to be a WR2 moving forward. But honestly, he is playing the Carolina Panthers on Sunday, and I don't know if I will start him in that game. I don't know if I would, but I do like what I'm seeing from Stefon Diggs, and I don't like his matchup this week, so I don't know if I would start him this coming Sunday. But I do think he is a guy that you can possibly insert in your lineups moving forward. Unless if you guys don't have any other better receivers or better matchups on your team and you have Stefon Diggs, I would just go ahead and put him in the lineup anyway. Because you never know. That's only if you do not have anyone else better than Stefon Diggs. All right, well, we're going to take our second break, and I'm going to get into some waiver wire pickups for Week 3. And there's a lot regarding there was a lot, guys. There was a lot of running backs with injuries this week. And I'm going to try to help you guys out to pick up, give you guys some advice on who you guys should pick up to replace, your broken roster, I should say, your broken roster. But anyways, we'll be right back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA Podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast. And now we're getting to some waiver wire pickups for Week 3. And I want to start off with the quarterback position. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick, I think he is going to be I think he's one of the top waiver ads at the position this week. And, he has so many weapons on his offense. And I think, honestly, he's going to have a really good year in fantasy. He has weapons like Brandon Marshall, Eric Decker. He even has Forte that even get involved in the passing game. And I do think he is going to be a very good fantasy quarterback moving forward, that is. But to let you know, the schedule is difficult. He has matchup against the Chiefs, Seahawks, and Cardinals over the next 4 weeks. So if you need a quarterback, I wouldn't start Fitzpatrick against these 4 teams, that is. And because these are tough defenses. He's probably not going to have, the big numbers he did against Buffalo in Week 2. But when the matchup is right, I think he very good quarterback to use. He's definitely useful in 2 quarterback leagues. But yeah, he is one of the top waiver pickups, moving forward. And I think Ryan Tannehill, I think he is another guy that you can probably pick up off the waiver wire this week. He did have a couple of tough matchups. He did have Seattle, and he did have the Patriots to start off the year. But man, what he did in that second half against the Patriots, you cannot disregard that. He brought the team back within 7 points at the end of the game. And you got to look at what he has on at the receiver position. He has playmakers on at receiver. He has Jarvis Landry, and he has Devontae Parker, who had a really good game. Yes, after being inactive for the first game. So so Ryan Tannehill is I think he's someone you can look to pick up off the waiver wire this week. To possibly be a backup, or he's probably a guy you can probably use for a bye week. But other than that, I don't consider Ryan Tannehill as a QB1. He's probably more to mid to low in QB2. But he is one of the guys you can look off the waiver wire this week. And Joe Flacco, I actually like Joe Flacco moving forward. He has a variety of receivers. Even though the running game has not been there, he has a variety of receivers, and I do think he's going to have a really good bounce back year. And his something I want to point out is Mark Trestman. He is the offensive coordinator. And, Mark Trestman's 11 seasons as an NFL play caller, his offense has run the ball only 36.9% of their total snaps, and 39.5% of the red zone snaps have been runs. So Joe Flacco is going to throw the ball multiple times. He's going to throw the ball a lot, and that's why I think, Joe Flacco is a very valuable waiver wire pickup this week. He's just going to straight air it out. He's going to straight air it out, and it's a passing league, and you need a quarterback. For any guys that need a quarterback, or if you just need someone to be a bye week fill-in, I would pick up Joe Flacco. I would go with Joe Flacco. Anyways, moving on to the big position this week is the running back position. There's a position that had a variety of injuries this year. I already went over the Vikings backfield with Jerry McKinnon and Matt Osceola in the beginning of the show. But there's also another backfield in Miami that is J.I.J. and Kenyan Drake. They can possibly be valuable waiver wire pickups this week, with Adrian Foster, going down with a groin injury that is day to day. He's probably not. I'm not sure if the Dolphins are going to play him this Sunday, but if they do, I do expect J.I.J. to get the start. But I actually like Kenyan Drake better than Ajayi. Remember, Ajayi was a guy that wasn't even active for the first game, and I actually like Kenyan Drake. This is a guy that was Derrick Henry's backup in Alabama, and Kenyan Drake, he has the ability to change the pace. He has a lot of speed, and I do think because both of these guys, you don't know what you're gonna get from any of them. I wouldn't, they're not the first guys I would pick up off the waiver wire. I would probably lead it to Jared McKinnon and Fozzy Whittaker, which I'll get into a little bit later. J.J. and Kenyan Drake, they're guys that to target in this Miami Dolphins backfield. Me personally, I like Drake a lot better, even though Jay he's expected to start. But remember, you can't disregard that Jay was a starter in the offseason, and then until the Dolphins signed Arian Foster, and then IJ was second on the depth chart and was left off the team. Well, not left off the team, but he was inactive for the first game. So I think that's something to look forward to. And then for that reason, I think Kenyan Drake is a better. He's not the guy you should start this Sunday, but he's a better season long pickup. He's someone that can possibly make an impact later on this season. And speaking of Fozzy Whittaker, who I mentioned briefly, in the talking about the Dolphins backfield, is he's someone that's going to be heavily, targeted in the waiver wire this week. Jonathan Stewart went down with a hamstring injury, and after Jonathan Stewart left Sunday's game, Fozzy Whittaker was the only running back on the team. Well, not the only running back, but he got the majority of the snaps. And, Whittaker came and ran 16 times for 100 yards and also added 31 receiving yards on 3 catches. He did have a fumble, which is something to be a little concerned about. But, Jonathan Stewart is going to miss a week or two, and Fozzy Whittaker is probably going to get the start. But he shouldn't be the only running back in the Carolina Panthers backfield to target. You got Cameron Artis-Payne. I kind of like him too. He's someone that you can possibly pick up also in this backfield, but with Fozzy Whittaker getting the start, he's probably someone that's probably going to be targeted more. But I would take a chance on Cameron Artis-Payne if you really do need running back help with the slate of injuries. And now we're going to go to the wide receiver position. And a guy that I actually liked in Thursday night game with the Jets and Buffalo Bills, that is Quincy Adeniwa. Yes, Quincy Adeniwa. He had a real good game. Remember the first half of the Thursday night football game, he had 5 targets, 5 receptions, and 90 yards. He had led the team at one point, even though he didn't play the majority of the second half. He finished the game with 6 catches and 94 yards, and he is immersed himself as the number 3 option in the New York Jets offense. But I do expect Iniwa to make an impact for the Jets and possibly in fantasy moving forward. And if you guys need receiver help, he's someone I'll have my eye on. Remember the number 3 position, number 3 wide receiver position for the Jets was a problem last year, and then they Jets don't have a real pass catching tight end. So I think Iniwa is going to get a lot of chances, especially in the red zone. And another guy that I want to get into to pick up off the waiver wire this week is Philip Dorsett. He's Dante Moncrief. He's been really consistent, but he had a shoulder injury last week. So if Moncrief was to miss a couple of games or miss some time, any time for that matter, I think Philip Dorsett is going to be highly involved in the Colts offense, and he's someone I would pick up if you really do need receiver help. And now moving back to the big position, or I should say, is the tight ends. A guy I think you need to pick up in the tight end position right now is Dennis Pitta. Dennis Pitta has emerged as the number 1 option for the Baltimore Ravens. He needs to be picked up this week. I swear, if you got tight end is the weakest position in fantasy, he needs to be picked up this week. Remember, Dennis Pitta, he wasn't looked at all because of his injury history. But after coming off a 9-catch, 102-yard day against the Browns, he led the Baltimore Ravens in catches and targets. You need to pick him up. He's a guy that needs to be picked up this week for a position that has been weak this season. And another tight end that I really like this week is Jacob Tamme. Yes, Jacob Tamme looks really involved in this offense. I know they play the Raiders. The Raiders historically do not defend tight ends well. But, man, he made some plays in the Atlanta passing game. He looked like the number 2, number 3 option against Oakland on Sunday. And, he did have 11 catches for 126 yards and a touchdown, 16 targets. He actually out-targeted Julio Jones 16-13 against the Raiders. And he's not going to sustain that kind of pace throughout the whole season, but he could be useful and productive tight end in a position that doesn't have a whole lot of options out there in the waiver wire. So those are 2 guys I would like to pick up in a tight end position. That is Dennis Pitta and Jacob Tamme. Whoa, that actually concludes the first my first show hosting this podcast. I had a really lot of fun doing it. I was approached to host this show, and I was like, I didn't hesitate to do it. And I'm looking forward to doing this every Tuesday and Friday. And Friday, I'm gonna get into some top performers from the Thursday night football game, which is the Houston Texans versus the New England Patriots, and also kind of previewing matchups for week 3. We'll get a little bit more on that on Friday, and I'm actually going to have a co-host, one of our new guys, Anthony, on Friday. He's going to be doing this with me every Friday. As of now, I'm going to do this show every Tuesday by myself, and I think it went pretty well. But yeah, you can follow this show on a variety of platforms, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, YouTube, SoundCloud, and you can also follow the show on Twitter. Yes, you can follow the Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast at GSMC_F-Football. Yes, and you can also follow us on Instagram at the same handle, that's at GSMC_F-Football. You can also like the show on Facebook at the Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast. And you can also go on our website of the network, GSMCpodcast.com. You can listen to my football show, real football that is. I do the show with Alex Monday through Thursday. I do the show with Ben every Friday. And we're also going to have Anthony, the co-host for this show, on Friday. He's actually going to do the football show Wednesday through Friday as well. And I also do the baseball show. It's winding down. I do that show every Wednesday. And I'm looking forward to doing this show every week, guys. This was fun. And thank you for tuning in. Yes, we'll see you Friday.